Hello everyone, it's Becca from Becca Books and Bujo, and today I'm telling you about all of the books I read in the month of September. September was a fun reading month. I read a lot of middle grades that weren't on any sort of TBR, and so those were fun to get in here. But I also participated in Bookoplathon and Seasonathon Academy, so I read all sorts of books, also books for my deck of TBR, which I'll link up above. But I read a lot of different things, and I'm excited to tell you about them today. Let's quick go through some stats before I tell you about each of the books. So I read 14 books, and that totaled 4,115 pages. I read 1 classic, 8 contemporary fictions, 2 historical fictions, 1 magical realism, 1 poetry, I guess you would call it, and 1 romance. For the audience that these books are geared toward, 10 of them were geared toward adult and 4 of them were middle grade. And then as far as the format, I read 3 of them strictly physically, 1 of them strictly as an audiobook, and 10 of them were a combination between audiobook and physical. And lastly, my average rating was a 4. I feel like that's really good. In the past, my monthly average ratings have been around 3.5, I think, so 4 is great. I'm really proud of that. Now we're going to jump into each of the books, and we're going to go from lowest star rating to highest star rating, ending with what's probably my favorite book of the month. So let's jump in. I did not give any 1-star ratings this month, which is always good. Always bumps up that average rating for the month. But I did have 2 2-star reads. So the first one that's a 2-star read is On Mystic Lake by Kristen Hanna. And actually both of my 2-star reads were Kristen Hanna books. So On Mystic Lake, the reason I gave this one 2 stars is because it was just so cookie cutter, cliche, predictable. And that's also why I gave 2 stars to the other one. But this one is about a woman who has been married to her husband for 20 some years, and their only daughter goes off to college. And so it's just husband and wife left alone, and he basically tells her, I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm in love with someone else. So she has to reevaluate her whole entire life. She ends up moving back home to live with her dad and strikes up a relationship with one of her first loves. And so I won't give anything more away, but you can kind of imagine what happens. Well, maybe you can't imagine. There are some twists and turns in this one, but ultimately just very cliche, growing older, realizing you're not who you thought you were, or you're not who you thought you were meant to be with. And it was very similar, honestly, to the other 2-star that I read. So the other one that I read is Distant Shores by Kristen Hanna. This one is about a husband-wife duo. They have 2 daughters, and they have basically lived their lives for their daughters, or at least the wife has for sure. Elizabeth, I think her name is. And she always let her husband kind of chase his dreams and helped her daughters achieve their dreams, and she never took time for herself. So she kind of lost passion with her husband, lost passion with her life and what she wanted to be doing with her life, and so she needs to find herself. And so I feel like there are a lot of similarities between the character in On Mystic Lake and the main character in Distant Shores. Again, Distant Shores was cookie cutter, cliche, predictable romance, one out for these characters in both ways, but in both books, but it just like it was kind of blah for me, just kind of not quite there as other Kristen Hanna's were. So I'm curious as to when these ones were published, because I just feel like her older ones are not hitting the mark for me. So On Mystic Lake was 1999, and Distant Shores was 2002. Yeah, so these were some of her older ones, and I just feel like she didn't quite hit her stride until Nightingale. I feel like that was her first really good one. Oh, Firefly Lane, she maybe did. Okay, so anyway, those are my 2-star books for the month. Then we'll move to a 3-star, which is Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. This is what I know of Nina LaCour, her first adult fiction. She usually writes for young adult. I haven't read any others by Nina LaCour, but I might after this. So this one is about 2 female characters basically, and we follow their lives as they find each other, and there is a relationship between these 2 women throughout the story, more so toward the end. Sarah grows up in a very difficult household. Her mother is an addict, her dad is a dealer, and she is basically forced to take care of her younger brother, maybe like 10 years her junior, 8 years her junior. But this other side plot is that she is gay and she has a relationship with her best friend that nobody knows about, and all sorts of trouble happens with that. And then we follow Emily, who is in LA, and she has a sister who is an addict and almost overdosed, and so we have to see her struggles, trying to be friends with her sister, but just never connecting with her. And then also some family drama with her parents and her grandmother, and she's trying to find who she is. So Sarah, I forgot about Sarah, she runs away from her situation. Emily stays in her situation. She is trying to graduate from college. She's like in year 7 of college, trying to decide what she wants to do with her life. Sarah is also trying to figure out what she wants to do, but kind of comes to it much more naturally because of the situation she came out of. They find each other, they fall in love, but also have some turmoil as to how they get there. So this was good, middle of the road for me, 3 stars. Going back to Kristen Hanna with a 3.5 star, we have Homefront. This one is about a woman who is in the National Guard with her best friend, and one day, out of the blue, kind of out of the blue, they are told that they are going to the front lines to fight in Iraq. So she leaves behind her husband, who she is having relationship issues with in the first place, and now they're going to be separated for an entire year. And she leaves her 12-year-old and 4-year-old daughters. Her husband is a big-time lawyer and never really paid attention to his family, was too deeply set in his career to even go to his daughter's track meet. And so he is now forced to take on a new role as being the single parent, both the mom and the dad, while the mom is away at war. Some very sad things happen in this one. I did tear up quite a bit in this one. And the main reason I think I did is because I'm a mother, and I feel like if I had to leave my kids in the way that this character did, Jolene is her name, there would be some really hard things to conquer. And then Jolene, after she comes back from the war, deals with PTSD, and that is such a hard-hitting topic for many people, and I feel like one that the US kind of just glazes over with our troops. I feel like the one main lesson I got from this one, I wrote it down because it was really important, is there is so much training before one goes to war and so little for one's return. These people that go fight for our country see a lot and do a lot to protect our freedoms, and they really aren't recognized for that coming back, and have lots of mental things going on from what they see and what they've done and what they've encountered. And so this really held a light to those issues and made me realize that we need to be more grateful for the people who fight for our freedoms across seas. So this one is 3.5 stars. Very good. Was a little bit of a tearjerker. Much better for Kristen Hanna than the previous 2 I talked about. And now we're moving on to some 4 stars. So we will start with Wishtree. This is just a teeny little middle grade book about a tree named Red. And she is this big, beautiful maple tree. And once a year, people come to her and write their wishes on pieces of fabric on her branches. And she gathers those wishes and hears about those wishes sometimes from those people, and just is a friend to the community in that way. But then what we don't see as humans is she can talk to the animals around her, the trees around her, and it's just very sweet in that way. She wants to strike up a friendship with a new girl in town who feels very isolated and not welcomed, and she helps this new girl find a friend in her neighbor, actually. And so very, very sweet. And then there's some turmoil, like all books should have, when they think that this tree is too old and shouldn't be there any longer. So a very sweet read, and I gave this one 4 stars. Another middle grade that was given to me by the librarian at my husband's elementary school is The Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling. I don't think I said that Wishtree was by Catherine Applegate, but it's by Catherine Applegate. Anyway, Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. This one is about a young girl named Avon, and she is adopted by her parents, and her parents are trying to make their way in their lives and decide to take a job in Arizona. So they move away from their Oklahoma or Texas town where Avon is completely comfortable with her friends, her life, and they take her away to this new job in Arizona where she has to restart. Now, Avon is just like any other middle school girl. She loves to play soccer. She loves to hang out with friends. But the one difference with Avon is that she doesn't have any arms. She was born without arms and has to live life differently because of that fact. So, moving to a new town, she has to try to find friends, and it is difficult for her because she feels very different. She feels very concerned with how people see her and view her because of the things she has to do with her feet, like eat and do personal hygiene and stuff. And so she has a really tough time of it. But she befriends some of maybe the other school weirdos. Not that they're weird in any way, but one boy has Tourette's, and he is ostracized often, just like Avon is, because of his tics that he has, and she strikes up a friendship with him, and they have a great friendship. They also make friends with another boy who is a bit larger than the rest of them, and people say that he's fat and that he eats too much, and so he always eats outside, and Avon goes and eats with him because she doesn't like people to see her eat with her feet. Anyway, she makes friends with some of the more isolated kids at school, and they have this great friendship, and they work to figure out the mystery of this job that her dad took. He took a job at this Wild West park, and they can't find the owner of this park. This owner is a mystery. They don't know where they are. They feel like there's a murder afoot or something, and so they set out to figure out who the owner is, where the owner is, and it ultimately helps Avon figure out who she is. So very, very sweet book. This I gave 4 stars also. Next, in the 4-star category, I gave 4 stars to Normal People by Sally Rooney. I feel like I've talked about this one a lot in various vlogs or in my bullet journal setup, because I based my October setup on this cover. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about this one, but it is about Connell and Marianne and their very normal relationship with each other in their very normal lives, dealing with struggles that a lot of people face. It's very mundane and good, very character driven, not much of a plot, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm interested to try some more Sally Rooney after reading this one, because this was my first Sally Rooney. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts, check out my October bullet journal setup or my weekend reading vlog that I just posted a week ago. I'll link those videos down below. And my last 4-star, I just finished in the nick of time, September 30th, was Beloved by Toni Morrison. This was a slog for me to get through, but I'm so glad I stuck with it. I started this one like the 5th of the month or something, and read like 10% on that first day, and then gave up. Didn't want to pick it back up again. It is heavy. It's like a lot of words per page. It's different writing than I'm used to, just because it's older, a classic, and just a lot more to chew on than just a contemporary might be, but totally worth it. So this is about our main character, Setha, and everything she has to undergo escaping slavery and living life after slavery. She has children that she got out of slavery. She has a lot of mental health issues after this. I don't know how much I want to give away because I feel like a lot of people know what this story is about, but ultimately she's haunted by one of her daughters after killing her because she wanted to do anything she could to keep her children out of slavery. And that was the one thing she needed to do for her daughter, Beloved. And so this is really just a love letter to Beloved, and us as readers, we see just how horrible slavery can be to the people who lived through it and the after effects of slavery. A very important book. The only reason I gave it 4 stars is just because it was hard for me to get through, just pacing wise. Moving right along, we have a 4.5 star. We have A Burning by Megha Majumdar. This is about a woman who is wrongfully accused for committing a crime against the country, basically blowing up a train car in India. And there's a lot of government issues in this one where the government is a part of life that we have no clue in this country. And so this one, we follow that character as she is wrongfully accused and then convicted, and then how her life plays out after the fact. But then we also follow a friend of hers who she hopes will testify in her favor during all of the proceedings. It's a woman that she taught English to. So we follow that woman and all the difficulties she faces because she was born female in a male body, and so all the things that she faces being a trans woman. And we follow one other character. It is our first character who is wrongfully accused, Jivan. I don't know if that's how you say it, Jivan. Anyway, we follow her gym teacher from high school and how he kind of can climb his way up in the government based on the things he does. There were a lot of scenes that stuck out to me and just made me hurt. There was just some tragedies that made me feel for these characters so strongly, and so I give major praise to Megha Majumdar for being able to instill those feelings in me. For some reason I couldn't give it 5 stars, and I don't quite know why. Maybe just the sick feeling I got almost from it, that just was like, I can't say this is the best book ever because of how horrendous some of the things are in it, which, I mean, no offense, because those are important things to be put in this book. But anyway, I'm not articulating myself very well. It's late on a Saturday night when I'm filming this, so I apologize, but this one I would definitely give a try if any of that intrigues you. It's a quick read too. The chapters are short. You're always wanting to figure out what happens to these characters, so definitely give this a try if you're looking for a fast-paced but difficult read. And not difficult like hard to read, but difficult subject matter. And then we have my 5 stars. I read 5 5-star books this month, which I think is the most that I've ever had in one month. So the first one I read of the month was Sea Prayer by Khaled Hosseini. This is just a lovely short little book about, not even about anything. It is a prayer for a man's son as they escape war and turmoil in Syria. It has beautiful artwork throughout and just like touched me in a way that I didn't realize a teeny little thing could. I want to read you the last page because it's just so sweet. This father, the words he has for his son. All I can do is pray. Pray God steers the vessel true. When the shores slip out of eyeshot and we are a fly speck in the heaving waters, pitching and tilting, easily swallowed. Because you are precious cargo, Marwan. The most precious there ever was. I pray the sea knows this. Inshallah. How I pray the sea knows this. So, very good. This is the one that I categorized as poetry because I didn't quite know where to fit it. But very good. Short read. Happy. I stumbled upon this at a library book sale. Then I returned my copy to the library already, but I read The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This is a hilarious romance about a woman who has Asperger's, and she is trying to date and learn how to date. And so she decides the best way to do that is to get some practice by hiring a male escort. And at first, the practice is just going to be sexual. She's going to learn how to have sex in the best ways with this male escort. But then she learns, no, it can't just be about sex. It is definitely about the social aspects to a relationship. So I'm going to learn how to have a relationship with this guy, and they enter into a fake relationship. And I love fake dating tropes, and so this one just was perfect for me at the time I read it. I loved our main character, Stella, and how particular to detail she was, and how she wanted to follow these strict guidelines and rules as to how to be in a relationship, and learned it's not always that easy, and you have to do what feels right for you. So anyway, that one was really good. 5 stars. I'm excited to read the other books in this series. I don't think they're like necessarily you have to read the first one to read the others, but excited nonetheless. Then I read The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise by Dan Gemeinhart. This is another middle grade that I was not expecting to pick up, but was set on my lap by an elementary school librarian. This one is about a young girl named Coyote and her father Rodeo, and they travel around the US in a school bus that they have made to be their home. Almost like an RV situation. Anyway, one day she gets a phone call from her grandma and is told that a beloved park in her hometown is going to be destroyed and turned into apartments, houses, whatever. She takes it upon herself to get back there, and she needs to find something she buried there with her mom and sisters, and she does this while trying not to tell her dad that they're going back home. So they take in a bunch of other travelers along their way so they can get closer and closer to her hometown. She meets some friends that she will have for life, and they get into some crazy shenanigans, but ultimately it is about a girl and her dad struggling with the loss of the rest of their family and dealing with those emotions, and the grief that they are feeling is just devastating for both of them, but mostly for her dad. So anyway, a very sweet look into a girl's life who faces some serious hardship, but then grows from it and can have a great life adventure even when after something bad happens. Another middle grade that I loved, gave 5 stars to this month, was The War That Saved My Life by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. This one was so good. A middle grade historical fiction about World War II. It is about 2 young children who leave London during the bombings of World War II, and their mother couldn't be more happy to get rid of them during this time. She didn't care for either of them. She cared for her son more than the daughter. And the reason she didn't care for her daughter Ada is that because Ada had a club foot, and so she was hidden away in their teeny little apartment, never given any sort of help or the medical attention she needed with this issue with her foot. And so when they went away to the country, these poor children were nervous that they were going to get put in a situation similar to what they have with their mother, and instead they find love. They are loved by this woman who never had kids and are completely surprised by what they find in this new world for them. So a very, very sweet story about children whose lives are saved by this woman, and this woman's life is saved ultimately by these children. And the war, even though this war was so terrible, it ultimately saved these people and brought them together. And so really good middle grade historical fiction. And the last book that I read in September that I gave 5 stars to is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I absolutely loved this one. This is the fourth in Taylor Jenkins Reid's quartet. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six, Malibu Rising, and then Carrie Soto is Back. They're all kind of intertwined, but you don't really have to read one before or after reading the others. It's just they all kind of go together. Now this one is about Carrie Soto, and she is a famous tennis player. She holds the world record for the most slam titles won. I think it's about 20 titles or something like that. And she has been retired for about 10 years. And when someone claims her title over her, or is about to claim that title of most slams won, she gets back in the game. She comes out of retirement to try to hold her title. And we follow along in the journey. It is so fun. I found myself wanting to cheer for Carrie Soto. I never played tennis, but I enjoy watching tennis. I always have enjoyed watching Wimbledon, or the French Open, US Open, Australian Open. My sisters played tennis, and so I got into it from them. And so this one was just really exciting. We see lots of interesting family dynamics with Carrie and her dad, as him being a coach, but then also being her father, and how that comes into play. A lot of people didn't like this one as much, or at least the 2 or 3 reviews I've seen so far. People didn't like this one as much as other Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I did. I don't know, she sucked me into the story. She made me care about these characters, even if tennis is not my favorite thing in the whole world, or even if Carrie Soto is a very unlikable character to the world around her. I don't know, I got sucked in, and I really, really loved it. I can't wait to read anything else that Taylor Jenkins Reid comes out with, but also I'm looking into her backlist a little bit because I've only read those 4 in this quartet, and so excited to see what else she puts out in the future, but also to look back at what she has written in the past. There we go. My voice really hurts. I don't know if you can hear it, but it is shaking. I've talked too much. We're gonna end it there. Thank you so much for watching. If you have read any of these books and agree with me or disagree with me on my ratings, let me know down below. I would love to have some conversation with you down in the comments. Again, thanks for watching. Hit the like button on your way out. Consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more bookish and bullet journaling content by me. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.